YouTube. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Sewing Outdoors. Me and Hunter here, we're going to go out and do a little structure fishing today. We're going to give you guys a few tips and school you on structure fishing, offshore fishing. We're not great at it, but we know a little bit about it. So we're going to share what little knowledge we have of the subject with you guys, and places that you can look and places that you can start to break down your lake by using your mapping and some of your basic sonar technology to find some areas to catch bass in the summertime when it's hot offshore. Let's get at it, dude. Water now, we're doing a little graphing, and I want to talk to you about a few things that we try to look for whenever we're using our mapping. There's fish right there, actually. Zoom. Let's see what these are. Don't think they're bass. Okay. I want to talk to you about a few things that you want to look for whenever you're structure fishing or fishing offshore. Number one, you need to identify the bass's primary forage on your lake. Is on the lake that we're on today, they have multiple, forages, but in the offshore stuff, it's going to be primarily on shad, gizzard shad, and there are going to be some bluegill on these areas, because a lot of these areas we're fishing are stumps or a little bit of a rock pile, something of that nature, and there's always going to be bluegill hanging around those as well. So that's one thing you need to identify first, so that you can put yourself in the right areas based on what kind of bait you're seeing on your graph. So the first place we're coming up on here is an offshore hump, and I try to pick the high percentage areas first. Anything that is relatively close to the river channel is things that I'm gonna graph and look at. I don't know how good you can see it with the sun, but here's the river channel, and here's an offshore hump, and it looks like it comes up to about 10 or 12 foot, and we've got some real deep water around it, and you can see the real tight contour lines there. So we're just going to kind of ride up on the hump, and I like to just basically go dead center over it the first time with my side imaging. I'm actually looking for some sort of offshore structure. So as we go over the hump here, I'm going to switch over to my side scan and got my mapping up, and I'm just looking for something that would hold those fish. I can tell you that this one here doesn't have a lot on it, but I wanted to show you guys kind of what I'm looking for there. Now let's go look at a long point that is also adjacent to the channel. Once you find some structure, you're going to want to mark it with your graph and run around and locate some other areas, and then come back and fish it. Give it some time to calm down, come back and fish it. And if you get bites, if you catch a few fish, then you have kind of a little area that maybe you can run back to throughout the day and catch more. But we're really just looking for hard spots, rough areas, stumps, rocks, anything that we can isolate that's different than the rest of the cover. Bass are no different than people are to an extent, is we always like something a little different. When you go pick out a new car at the dealership, you're looking for something maybe a little different color or a little different ride. They like to get on things that are a little different than their surroundings. So that's what we're looking for. Let's go check out a few more places. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got a long point that's extending off the bank, and the river channel comes up, hits it, and bends out and around it. This is a great place to look that could hold some fish. What we're going to want to do is try to keep the boat out here just kind of in the mid-range depth that we want to fish, which, this lake we're trying to target fish in that 8 to 12 foot of water range. So I'm trying to keep the boat in that area. Okay, as you can see right here in the channel bend, I have a waypoint marked, and this is an area that I have found and fished before. It's right in the deepest part of the channel bend, or hardest part of the channel bend, and that is ideal area. So what we got is we've got a couple laydowns coming in. There's a stump there, and then we have kind of a rough spot right off to our left. Rest of this is pretty mud flat, but then you got some rough stuff out there just a little bit deeper. Constantly pay attention to the channel. Always be looking at that. Those are your high percentage areas first. Anywhere that the channel comes up and hits a point, or comes up and you know, hits a large flat, you could graph the edge of the flat, or an offshore hump, anything of that nature. That's kind of what you're going to want to look for to start. I know that's very basic for you guys that are skilled at offshore fishing or skilled at finding things, but I just kind of want to put out a video of some of the simple things to look for first. And you don't have to have high dollar electronics to do this. You can do it with 2D sonar. And the main thing is mapping. It's absolutely everything. Without good mapping, you're lost. It's just, you know, it's outer space out there without good mapping. Knowing where those long points come out, knowing where those humps are, those give you places to look. And if you don't have the mapping, then the down scan and the side imaging and the 360 imaging won't mean anything to you anyway. So if I was ever going to invest my money and I was on a budget and I couldn't have all of the options out there, I would go with good mapping first, because that's at least going to show you the areas that you need to look. All right, guys, we're going to try to catch us a few. Pretty hard, about 3.5. There we go. Offshore. Look where he was at. Right where all that bait was. Right on my
offshore bacon. Offshore 4-pounder.
Get my camera. Pretty fish. Pretty fish. He fought like he was real big. I thought he was real big.
Like
He's a good one. He's a good one.
He ain't big. He's a good 4-pounder.
Little video thing, but he's fat. He's eating good.
Daddy, don't be worried about the fish.
Little one. That's all we can catch out here is a bunch of little dudes. We're not even out on the main lake. We're kind of up the river, but there's some, you know, little channel swings and little shallow points that come out that offer some really good offshore fishing without being right out in the middle of the terrible boat traffic. So being it's later in the day, we're going to do that. That's something to always keep in mind, is even up your rivers, some of your tributaries, some of your pockets, or creek arms, you're going to have some offshore stuff there. Doesn't always have to be on the main lake, and a lot of times those areas are overlooked. Just to give you a rough idea, you can see a lot of bait here, real rough bottom, and then it drops off real steep. You know, we were in 16 foot on this shallow or a deeper part, and then up here was 8-9 foot, and you can see pretty obvious spot. You got the river channel coming in, hits the end of this point. Zoom in a little bit, and you can see right up on top on the tip of that, and the channel goes out that way. I've said this before, I look for areas where the channel comes fairly close to the point or to the offshore structure. It's just a high percentage area. You fish enough of them in a day, you can get the bites. Sometimes they're the right ones, sometimes they ain't. I'm gonna go try to catch us a few more.